It wasn't me this time.
There you go. Page 12. In case you forgot, it's the Bible section is Matthew chapters 5 through 7. We are in chapter 6, and we are commenting and discussing verses 16 to 18 of chapter 6. We have half this chapter and a whole nother chapter to go. I want to get done by the next Saturday, or Saturday after next, so we're going to have to hustle.
What chapter, the verse? I'm sorry.
Matthew 5, 6, and 7, we're actually in chapter 6 at 16.
1506.
1509.
Oh,
1509.
1509?
1509. Page 12 here, yes. So, let's go right to the notes at letter S. I have two S's there. I guess I forgot to change one. Second S then. In the previous verses, Jesus was teaching that our spiritual activities should be done with the thought of pleasing God, obviously. Beginning now with verse 19, the rest of the chapter 6, Jesus teaches our physical activity should also be done with God's uppermost in our minds. The treasure Jesus refers to here isn't necessarily money. Any earthly treasure can be a career, home, car, anything that hinders our walk with God. Jesus wants us to realize that material things are of transitory value, while spiritual things are of eternal value. Therefore, we should esteem spiritual things above everything else. So, this is his comment on verse 19. I guess we were done with 16 to 18. 19, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. This is an obvious point, isn't it? It really is kind of an obvious point that for whatever reason, people ignore. They do. I think we all do at some level. Okay? I think we all know a couple of facts. I think we know that things break. We know that. Whether it's a new car, whether it's a new house, whether it's clothes, it rips, buttons fall off, whatever. I think we all know that instinctively, whether we consciously think on it all the time or not. We know that. And yet, think about how much time and effort and money that we spend in getting these things. Okay? Even though we know they're not going to last. Okay? The same is true with our physical life. Okay? We all know we're going to die. We all know that. Granted, again, we don't think on it maybe every day or 5 times a day or whatever, but we know it. It's something that we know. We also know that no matter what we eat or drink or how much we exercise or how many times we go to the gym, we're going to wind up where we'll have to shuffle along, maybe not until we're 105, but eventually, no matter how good we take care of ourselves, again, we know that we're going to shuffle off, and finally, somebody, as like Jesus said to Peter, somebody's going to have to carry us around. We know that. Again, we don't dwell on it perhaps, but we know it. So what Jesus says here is actually very obvious. Do not store up for yourselves things, you might say, on earth that are going to be destroyed. Now, what do you suppose he means by store up?
Hoard.
Hoard? Ooh, that's a good synonym. Anybody else have an idea there? What is he really talking against? He's not saying you can't have these things. He's not saying you shouldn't maybe even want better ones, whatever. But he's too much, okay?
Collecting things you really don't need.
Okay, yeah. More than you need, I would say, okay?
And also do not make that a priority.
Okay, do not make it a priority, all right? Dwayne, were you going to make a comment?
No, I would agree.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
I said greed.
Greed, yeah. Greed again for stuff. Okay, for stuff. It's an obvious point. Job, of course, makes this point very, very astutely in his book, where he says, guy works his whole life, or Solomon also makes the same point in Ecclesiastes. Guy works his whole life, maybe accumulates a great plantation, great farm, or great factories, and a great deal of wealth, big houses, maybe 5 or 10 of them scattered all over the world, has a jet he flies around in, whatever. But, then both Job and Solomon ask the question, who gets that when you're gone? You can't take it with you. We all know that, right? There's an old saying among funeral directors, mortuary directors, there are no pockets in coffins. Okay? First funeral director I had in my ministry was a member of our church, and that was one of his sayings. That was the days before cremation was popular. It wasn't done very often. And so one of the things I had to do, one of my jobs, it was a big deal because I had a congregation full of a lot of old people, and it was larger than this church. Anyway, there were quite often where a family would call me and say, can you meet us down to the funeral home? Yeah, and my job was kind of a go-between. Because you can imagine you're on your emotional state, your father, mother, spouse, child, unfortunately sometimes, cousin, nephew, uncle, whomever, brother, sister has passed away. You're emotional about it. You go down to the funeral home, and what I saw happen once, and I never saw it again because I dealt with it, but what I saw happen one time, and it actually happened with my mother-in-law. The funeral director starts going through stuff, and if you've ever been through that exercise, you know the pages and pages and pages and pages of extras, right? And also if you've ever been through this, that coffins, caskets, can be incredibly expensive. They can be relatively cheap, but they also can be very, very expensive. And what I witnessed the first time I went down with a family, first time in my ministry I went down with a family, and did this, and the funeral director, he was just doing his job. He was trying to make money, and he was trying to make as much as he could. That's life. But I saw him put an awful lot of pressure on these people. And I happen to know, I knew these people. I'd been pastor there a couple months, and I got to know them. And they were farm folks, and they weren't that rich. And they wound up spending, I think, $15,000 or $20,000. And I was real upset about it. I didn't say anything at the time because I just kind of watched and looked. And then I went back after the funeral, did the funeral, buried the guy. I went back and talked to the funeral director, and I told him, I said, there are 2 funeral homes in this town. I said, you will not get any more of my business if you do that again. I said, do not try to sell them the top of the line, especially if they're, relatively poor folks. And do not pile on a whole bunch of extras, right? I told him, you do that again. And he kind of made a joke about it. He said, well, I didn't ask them if they wanted pockets in their coffins. That would have been extra. And I said, you're joking. And he said, well, yeah, I am. He said, that's one of the things I tell them. I said, you can get a whole lot of things. You can get satin pillows, and you can get silk, full silk lined, in the coffins. And you can get mahogany, and you can get gold leaf handles. I think the casket itself was $13,000, $14,000.
Holy mackerel. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was top of the line.
Yeah.
But he really put, you know, oh, George, he would want this, you know, oh, George, you know, he would want this. You know, he's
George doesn't
he-
know.
he's a, well, yeah, he's a pillar of the community, don't you want, you know, and that was true. I mean, I did the funeral in our church, and we had a viewing, of course, and all that kind of stuff. It was a big popular thing in those days. You know, we're talking 50 years ago almost. So it was one of those split coffins with the top opened and the bottom didn't. But it was mahogany and it was real nice. And people came in and, ooh, wow, you know, man, that's nice. And everybody thought this was just really, you know, man, you know, George was an important guy. You know, well, that's true, he was. But anyway, so I had to deal with the guy. Never again. And so then when I went down for my next one, he was much different. And he says, well, you know, here's the bottom of the line, you know, pressed wood with a veneer on it, and you know, this is middle and this is top. And oh, okay, yeah. Well, nobody wants to go in there and say, give me the cheapest you got. Although I've had a few people do that, you know. They never, it's funny, they say, show me the cheapest you got, and they show them and they go, oh, I don't want that. You were going to say something, Bruce?
I was going to say, nowadays you can rent.
Yeah, well,
viewing.
yeah.
So just to let you know that that's not.
Yeah, right, it is.
We had both of them cremated. We bought the urns. They already had their
Yeah,
their internment bought when they were younger.
yeah,
My parents.
Yeah.
So all we had to do was pay for the urns and
Yeah.
pay for the what's it called? Where you burn the body.
yeah,
Cremation.
yeah. But of course the point is, you can't take it with you. That's the point. Okay? That's what Jesus is saying here. You can't take it with you. There are no pockets and coffins. Okay? They don't come with pockets. And even if you ask for them, I don't think you'd get them. All right? So then verse 20 says, store up for yourselves treasure in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, thieves do not break in and steal. So again, the emphasis is on storing up. Well, again, go back to the negative one, storing up things, which means get a lot of them, get more than you probably need, never stop, you know, wanting more, getting more. Now he uses the exact same word for spiritual things. So flip the script, as they say, okay? And when it comes to spiritual knowledge of the Bible, knowledge about God, understanding of your faith, your religion, your theology, whatever, Jesus says there, you know, be greedy. Basically, it's what he's saying. Be greedy. Go after it. Store up as much as you can. I mean, take an attitude that you can never have enough. That's the attitude you should have with spiritual things. That's not the attitude you should have with physical things. But of course, our world today is, of course, exactly the opposite for the most part. Okay. Verse 21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Of course, this is well-known saying. Jesus used it more than once. And it is very true. The thing that you think of most highly, the thing that is uppermost in your mind, is the thing that your emotions are going to go for, your feelings are going to go for, your desires are going to go for. And so if you put God first, then hopefully your desires, your wants, your feelings, your emotions, and everything should then be not only pointed toward God, but controlled by God. See, this is the problem we're having in our society today. Okay? The society today, they're self-absorbed for the most part. And it's all about me, it's all about my rights. You have to use the pronouns I want you to use. I do not want to be exposed to your opposite thoughts on whatever subject. If you have an opposite thought than mine, I call that that you're offending me. that you are trying to cancel me. All right? This is the way of the world today. So it's me, I, and that's where the emotion is, and that's why people are so emotional and so fired up about certain things, because they all take it very, very personal. And Jesus is saying that's wrong. Okay, that's a bad treasure to have. If you are your best treasure, then you have bad treasure. Right? God needs to be your treasure. When I was a kid, never was I disciplined by the old man that he did not repeat. Turn this off. That he did not repeat. I turned you off. Go away. Go away. God first, family second, country third. And he would repeat that. And it didn't matter whether it was, what I did wrong, whether it was, this sin or that sin or, whatever. He would come back to that. That would always be his concluding statement. That would always be his concluding story. That would always be the final thing he would say. God first, family second, and country third. All those three things you die for, and that's it, period. And that's how you live. That's how you conduct your life. All right. And I don't know that that's taught anymore. I don't think it is, frankly. We wouldn't be in the problems we are as a country if it were. Let's look at the next notes here before we go on to the next verses. Letter T. It is so difficult to know our own hearts. If we examine what we consider our treasures, we'll find out whether our hearts are spiritual things or earthly things. And it's a good question to ask once in a while. It's a good question to ask. Where is our heart? Where are our thoughts? Where are our goals? Okay. A lot of us, getting on in years, our goal is, get through to the end of the day. Well, let's make it through another day, and that's it, and that's all right, and that's fine. But for what purpose? It's the goal and the purpose that is important here. That's where, again, your heart is. That's where your treasure is, in your heart. If your goal is to give glory to God, however you can do that, maybe it's by just being, the nicest person you can be, or the best person that you can be. Maybe if you have an opportunity to share the gospel with one person, or whatever. If that's your goal for the day, then you've got your heart in the right place, and you've got your treasure. Your treasure is the right thing, is the correct treasure. All right, and that needs to be, what do I have to do today? I always have a nice list. I always have a list. Last thing I do before I leave the office is make a list for tomorrow. And then it's there looking at me in the face when I get to the office. And the first thing I do in the morning is try to remember what's on that list. And I find myself sometimes, I say, I got to do this, this, this. And I get to the office, and there are 3 things above that. Shoot. That's why I write them down. But this is, what are these things? These things are, prayer for the congregation. Okay, prayer for members of the congregation. Okay, and as I've told you many times before, that changes depending on what's going on with y'all. Somebody gets a bad test result or something like that. Boom, they go up to the top of the list, and somebody else maybe falls a little bit, and then they get their test results back and everything's normal. Well, then they go down a little bit, and somebody else gets up there. So I mean, that's a constant thing, and that's something that is always there. But that's one of the goals. That's the goal. It's a spiritual goal. It's a goal to put before God the issues and problems and whatever of my flock. That's a goal. So what are your goals? What is your purpose? You know, is your purpose just to make another dollar? Well, that's kind of earthly treasure, isn't it? That doesn't need to be very far up on your list. At least it doesn't need to be in the top 3. Okay, it needs to be maybe 4 or 5, but it needs to be down there. Next sentence: how do we lay up treasures in heaven? Jesus commended the wisdom of the man who planned for his future by using his position to his advantage. And that's a very difficult. Parable. The parable of the shrewd manager. A lot of people don't like that parable. A lot of people think that parable is wrong, bad, because the parable has. Remember what happens. You know, a guy's going to lose his job. He's been found out. He's been skimming money from the top. He's a manager and he's skimming money from the top. And so the boss, the owner, is going to fire him and brings him in and says, "I caught you. I know what you've been doing. Go get your affairs in order. Clean out your desk. You're out of here." And what does he do? He calls in a bunch of debtors to the boss, and he tells them, each one of them, cut your debt in by 90%. Boss don't know any different. I'm keeping the books. And Jesus says, that guy's wise. That guy's wise. That guy's smart. Okay? When he gets thrown out of his job and maybe even loses his house or whatever, guess what? He can go to the oil merchant where he cut down his number of barrels that he owed the owner, and he can say, "Hey, remember me? I cut your debt. You owed 100 barrels. I cut it down to 90. To 10. Saved you 90 barrels of oil. Can I hang out here in your house for a while? And can you use your spare room?" What's the guy going to say? Well, if he says no, then the manager can go and tell the boss, "Hey, boss, this is what happened. Go get that guy." And so there were 3 or 4, and who knows how many more that he did that for. And so by the time he wears out his welcome at the oil man's house, he's got maybe 4 or 5 other houses he can go to. He can probably bounce around from place to place. He'd be fine. Maybe even pick up a new job or whatever. In other words, he prepared. Now Jesus, this is what people don't understand. Jesus is not saying that it's good to cheat. Okay, that's not the point of the parable. The point of the parable is not to cheat people. That's wrong. Okay, the point of the parable is, as I say, prepare. Okay, prepare. Well, if we all know we're going to die, then how do we prepare? Right? Well, I put in the note on Friday. Please, folks, if you haven't done this, please do me a big favor. If you like me at all, if you have any sympathy for me whatsoever, please fill out your final arrangements. Please fill those out, turn them into me. If you don't have a sheet, I'll give you one. If you've lost it, I'll give you a new one. Please. It's so tough. It's so tough, I went into Dale's folder, opened Dale's folder, and here was his final arrangement sheet, and blank. And I had a note to myself last time I was with them, visited with them over there, he and Hazel, 2020, 2020, and I had, whatever it was, May or June 2020, and said, "We'll complete later." Well, guess what? Later came, sooner than they thought. And that was the first question. That was the first question that Steve asked. Steve Quast. That's the first question he asked. "Pastor, you have Dale's final arrangements?" And I said, "Let me look in the file." And I opened the file and I went, "Sorry, Steve, it's blank." Oh! I sorry blank. Now, when Leroy passed, his was all filled out. When Mike Farron passed, his was all filled out. And so when their children called and said, Pastor, we don't know what to do. We don't know what they wanted. We don't know nothing. And I said, hang on a minute. And I got in the files, laid it all out. Here you go. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the hymns they want. Here's this and there's that. And then, oh, wow, thanks. Then we don't have to fuss with it. Now we just know what to do, right along down the line. So please, folks, please do that. It really does make everyone's life a whole lot better. A whole lot better. Okay? All right. End of commercial. In the same way, we should use what God has entrusted to us that He puts us in, and the places He puts us in for spiritual enrichment rather than for temporal gain. So we are where we are, and we are what we are, firstly for spiritual reasons. Now, I know that doesn't often seem right. It doesn't always seem obvious. Let's put it that way. It doesn't always seem obvious. Okay, if let's say there's a guy in the army. Let's say there's a guy in the army, and he really loves being in the Pacific Northwest. Let's say he's from that area, and he got assigned to Fort Lewis up there, and boy, he loved it. And just thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and all his whole life thought, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Or who knows, Fort Knox or Fort Gordon or Fort Stewart or whatever. And then one day, he gets an assignment from the Army and says, go to Fort Huachuca. Well, where the heck is that? And comes down here and just miserable. I don't want to be here. But let's say, meets one of y'all or somebody else, or he has a problem in his family or whatever, and somebody says, hey, go talk to Pastor Spencer. No, he does. Okay, and let's say one way or another, he winds up, being a good church guy or whatever. This is it. This is why we are where we are, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. You may not think so. You may not understand that. You may not say, well, why? Oh my, or my folks, got down here and then they retired and moved to Florida, and I'm stuck here, or whatever. No, you please understand. This is true of every single human being. I don't care if you're in the slums of New Delhi, India, or in the suburbs of Moscow, Russia, or in the Ukraine, or in Mexico City, or in Sierra Vista. Every single human being on the planet, every single one of them, is where they are, when they are, who they are, and what they are because of God. Okay? That is a fact. That is a fact of existence. All right? People may think, well, no, I decided to move here, or I decided to move there, or I got a job promotion, it took me to Atlanta, or it took me to Minneapolis, or this or that, or No. You can think that all you want to. I'm telling you that God is arranging the pieces. Okay? And God is putting people where He wants them. Now, does that mean everybody is saved? No, of course not. Okay, and sometimes a person is put somewhere to be a cog in the big machine, so somebody else is saved somewhere. Okay, understand that. I can't figure all that out. I can't connect all that, but that's the fact. All right, and so Jesus is being very, 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 very clear here that therefore your spiritual life is got to be number one. We're not to put our trust or security in our earthly possessions, for they are so easily lost. And I don't mean just in the stock market. I mean, that goes up and down every day, drives me absolutely nuts. I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. I used to, when we sold our ranch, and all of that money went into stocks and bonds and whatever. But anyway, it all went into a big fat portfolio, whatever. And I thought it was kind of fun. I used to watch it every day, and I used to go, "Ooh, that's interesting. And that one up, and that one down, that one up, And after a couple of months, I called up my broker and I said, "Is this exhausting?" And she says, yeah, it is. Why do you do it? And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I thought I was supposed to." No, that's what I'm supposed to do. You're not supposed to worry about it. She says, "As a matter of fact, if you look at it every day, you make yourself sick." So I said, oh, okay, I get it now. And she's very right, very right. You watch that all the time, you go crazy. You go nuts. Let somebody else worry about that. That's what you pay them for, okay? Instead, we are to trust God to provide for all of our needs while we devote ourselves to things of the world. That's not right. While we devote ourselves to the things of the world. Oh, to the world where we will spend eternity. In other words, to heaven. That world, that existence. Okay, that's what I'm saying here. Questions or comments before we move on? All right. Let's go on to the next couple verses, 22 to 24. He seems to change subjects a lot here. And yeah, it is a little bit, but not as much as you might think. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if then your eye is clear, your whole body is full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Wow. Now, can you imagine? You imagine you are just a normal, run-of-the-mill Jew living in Galilee, maybe living in Capernaum. Maybe you're a flour vendor, or maybe you're a grain mill operator, or who knows what. You're just an average blue-collar guy. You're just a regular Joe. And you go to synagogue, every week and listen to the rabbis once in a while, whatever. And then you go out and you listen to Jesus. And he spews this at you. Now, that's going to take some chewing on, isn't it? There's a couple of issues here. Well, first of all, let me connect it. Okay, so your heart is where your treasure is. All right. Then he jumps into eyes. Well, okay, how do you determine what treasure is? It's by your knowledge and your experience. And how do we talk about knowledge and experience? It's what we see. Okay? It's what we experience, but it's what we see. Right? That's a common phrase. How do you see this thing? When you say, for example, well, how do you see the upcoming election? We're not asking you what Biden or Trump look like, are we? If I ask you, what do you see in this coming election, I'm not asking you what those guys look like, am I?
No.
I'm asking what you know about it, what you think about it, what it's all about, okay? So we use the term see, and we use the term eyes and light in a metaphorical sense. We use them to stand for knowledge, understanding, okay, our ideas about those things. So he goes from the heart where your treasure is, and then how you're going to determine that treasure, well, it goes by your knowledge. See? So there is a definite connection between heart and treasure, and then eye and light and darkness. It's a definite progression of thought. It's not as bizarre or as harsh a change of subject as you might think. Okay? All right. So in verses 22 and 23, letter U, Jesus says that our eyes are window panes on our bodies. If the glass through which we look is clean, then we see the world as it is. Isn't this a huge problem? Reality. What is reality? Okay, I was watching a documentary last night, and it's a little old, I guess. It's from last year, but it kind of caught my eye, so I started watching it. And it was about these swimmers. You saw that last year. The swimmers, the college swimmers, and the guy who said he was a girl. Okay, and then the girl who actually won or was a real good. Well, this thing showed them. It showed the picture. They were both on the platform ready to dive in the water. Okay? This guy calls herself Leah Thompson, all right, but it was a guy, okay? He was like 2 heads, at least 2 heads, and his arms, you could just see his arms down to his side, and his arms, were a good, 6 inches or 8 inches longer than Riley Gaines. That was the woman, the actual woman, okay? And so, I mean, everything else being equal, who's going to get to the other wall first? The taller guy with the longer arms. I mean, come on, folks.
Excuse me, that's a lady.
Longer arms, longer legs.
Well, taller, but when you don't realize it when you see you see him holding his trophy, and a little jerk and all that. But when you see them standing next to each other, you go, how is this even right? Okay, so reality. Guy stands there, tells the judges or tells whomever, I'm a girl. His bulges are all in the wrong place for a girl. Okay? And then Riley Gaines, all her bulges are in the right place. Okay? And so common sense, experience, knowledge tells us this is a guy. This is not a girl, and he should not be racing a bunch of girls. Okay? That's reality, isn't it? Okay? Well, what do I say here? Okay? Your reality, if your glass is distorted, then your view of the world is distorted. So if the window that you're looking through to watch the world is a window of woke emotions and transgenderism and all that, then the world is going to be distorted. You're not going to be able to see the truth. The truth is, you're going to be blocked from seeing the truth.
You can't see the forest for the trees.
There you go, right. And so that's what happened. That's what Jesus is saying here. So your eyes, as you take it, are colored by your thought process, by your preconceived ideas, by your opinions, right? And that's what's wrong with the world today. Evil here is, in this particular case, is stingy, greedy, grudging. We should examine ourselves to determine whether we're generous or stingy, not only with material things, but with our attitudes. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to be stingy with your attitudes? What am I after there? What do you suppose? What is that all about? Stingy with your attitudes. What does that mean? Stingy with your attitudes.
Preconceived notions. Think of yourself only, maybe?
Okay. Putting yourself number one, yeah.
Me.
Okay, that's certainly part of it. Stingy with your attitudes. Well, what are you supposed to have? Your attitudes, of course, are for others, for God, and so on and so forth. So if you're stingy with your attitudes, you're not giving your, let's say, fairness and your kindness, okay, your attitude of help, all right? You're not giving that freely. You're holding it back, okay? You're holding it back. So if you're going to be not stingy, then you're going to have to try to be kind. Now, of course, that's not easy sometimes. Let's say you're trying to be kind to some of these people whose reality is all messed up. How can we be kind when a obvious man stands up to us and says, "Hi, my name is Eleanor"? Now, how are we going to be not stingy with our attitude toward that person?
Oh, that's nice, have a nice day.
I just tell them that I never bought a ticket to that circus.
Well, you can say, you can say, okay, if that's what you believe, however, that's not
That's not reality.
That's not reality.
That's not reality.
God says in the Bible.
Yeah, okay. You know, it's kind of like I was in the parking lot at Food City last week, and there was a very nice, very pretty, very sweet little girl, teenager, maybe early 20s, had a clipboard and was stopping people as they came out of the cars. And, you know, big smile on her face and, you know, just really, really nice. And she said, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure, yeah." And she said, "Would you like to sign my petition to assure reproductive rights for all the women of Arizona?" And she was just very sweet and very nice and everything. And I said, "No, I wouldn't. Now, if you had a petition to support the rights of the unborn, I'd certainly sign that one." Oh, and I said, you know, you're really campaigning for the wrong cause. And how is that? She said. And I said, "Well, you know, in most places where abortion is 100% legal and common, girls like you are aborted twice as often as boys. Given a choice," now my wife would disagree with this, having raised 5 kids, but given a choice, most people want boys. And I told her, I said, "Be careful what you wish for, you might just get it."
Well, look at what China did for decades.
Oh, I know, exactly.
I mean, it's forced.
And it's still true in many countries. It's still true in many countries that still support or allow for abortion on demand. Girls are still. It's like black folks don't understand that either. Blacks are aborted 3 times more often than whites, and women twice as often as males.
What was her name? Sanger?
I-
No, what was her name?
I don't know. She had a tag on, but I didn't read
No,
it.
not the girl.
Oh.
The one that brought about, come on, Margaret Sanger?
Oh, Sanger, yeah.
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 I mean, look, it was purely to cut down the black population.
Well, and imbeciles. Remember that was.
So blacks here are now supporting abortion, and you're supporting the elimination of your own race.
Yeah, I know.
That's why it was created.
That's another case of not seeing reality.
Yeah.
Huh? It's not seeing reality. But again, you know, I thought, she didn't complain. She didn't call me names or anything. But I thought I was being nice. I thought I was being generous with my kindness. Okay? Yeah.
Changed their tactics then, because I ran into them. The first question now was if I was a registered voter in Arizona.
Oh, I got that one 2 days ago in the Safeway parking lot.
Oh, I want to go to these stores.
And then they started getting on the rest of it, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I said, you sit down and read the Bible. I said, then you come and talk to me.
Yeah, I guess my point is we can be generous with our kindness. Okay, we really can. Okay, we don't have to be stingy with our kindness. We can, and by it doesn't do any good anyway if you want to yell at them and call them names and say and it's true. You got me. Jehovah's Witness. I'm sorry. I have lost my patience with those people entirely, and they come to my door. I say, enjoy hell, and I close the door. I've put in my time with those folks, and I ain't got no more time for them. But anyway, we in most cases, I think we can be free with our kindness. Moving along here. If we're generous, then we're filled with light, and if we're stingy, we're filled with darkness. Now, there's another thing here that Jesus says. It's kind of strange. He says, if the light is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Well, how can light also be dark? And I'm not talking about black light here. How can light, he says, if the light that's in you is darkness, then it's really, really darkness. How can the light that's in you? Well, if the light that's in you is dark, then what? Finish that sentence. If the light, quote unquote, that is in you is actual darkness, then you really don't have any light. There you go. Okay. That's what Jesus is saying. In other words, if the light, if your knowledge, again, going back to what we were talking about before, when you see, you experience, if your knowledge, your understanding is dark, that is, does not see reality, okay, then you don't have any light in you. This is the problem with these people. They don't have the light of God in them at all. At all. This is why male can be all of a sudden female, female can all of a sudden be male, good can all of a sudden be evil, evil can all of a sudden be good, right can all of a sudden be wrong, wrong can all of a sudden be right, because they just don't have the light of God in them at all. They are living in a fantasy world, and it doesn't do any good to let them live there without at least attempting to change it. It doesn't do any good, like I said, to yell at them, but at least might say, well, that's not reality. Sorry, I'm sorry for you. If that is your reality, you have my sympathy. Yes, sir.
I don't like to say things like that, because I used to.
Yeah.
Then it gets into confrontational discussion. Then you believe in the spirit that there's no proof. It gets into so many
Sure.
rabbit holes.
Sure.
That's why I made fun of it. I didn't buy a ticket to this circus.
Yeah.
So God bless you, and I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
I just cut it short because I want them to know how foolish they are.
Yeah.
It's a circus, it's a lie, and you're not going to hook me. I'm not going to get hooked.
Yeah. I'm not going down that road with you. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to play this.
Good enough. Good enough.
Yeah, with some people, no matter what you say, everything is negative.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
They don't see anything positive.
No. That's true.
Ridiculous.
Verse 24, all of a sudden comes another one of those very famous, well-known, everybody knows this, whether they know it came from the Sermon on the Mount or not, they still know it. No one can serve two masters, for he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money, and or God and wealth, or however you want to translate that. Many people translated it many, many different ways over the years. Is this true? Is this, first of all, let's just ask that. Let's be honest. Let's be blunt. Okay? Is this really true? When my father said to me, you got to love God first, family second, country third, does that mean I love three things? Doesn't mean I love God and hate my family and my country.
No, you love them all, but you're to be putting God first.
Well, but Jesus says, You cannot serve two masters. Wouldn't I have to say I have three masters?
No.
Well, four, counting my wife, of course.
Well, then you have the one master.
So is this really true?
Yes.
Because you're serving God, but you're not serving your family or the world. You can still love them, but you're supposed to give God more.
Well, let's put it this way. Can we serve God by serving our family or our country?
The Lord would want us to
Okay, all right.
take care of our.
So it's a matter. What it comes down to really is a matter of priorities. What it comes down to is who has the final say. All right, who has the final say? All right, God does. All right, and this is something children very often don't understand. Okay, very often. Okay, well, I have to do what God tells me to do. I have to do what God shows me to do. I have to do what God says to do in the Bible. I would love to do what you want me to do, child, or spouse, or father, or mother, or whatever. I would love to. But if I did, I wouldn't be doing what God wants me to do. Okay? So that's what Jesus is talking about here. Okay? It's not that you can't love two or three different things. That's not the point. Okay? The point is, who gets the final say? That's the point. And yeah, the point is God. And how does God get the final say? He gets the final say in His Word. The Word is the final say. The Bible is the final say, because the Bible is the only thing on earth that is divine in and of itself. Its essence is divine. It's what Jesus left behind when he took His visible physical presence up to heaven. He left behind His Word in the apostles, and of course they wrote it down, and okay, that's what we have. So this is Jesus on earth, visible on earth. Okay? Invisible, of course, He's everywhere, but visible, tangible, this is it. Okay? That's why we call it the Holy Bible. Ever wonder that? You know what the word Bible means? Anybody? Book. That's it. It just means book. Okay? But we call it the Holy Book because it is actually holy. It is actually a holy thing. It is actually a divine artifact. Okay? This is more holy than if we found Noah's Ark. This is more holy than if we found the original Ark of the Covenant.
Or the nails of the crucifixion.
Or the spear that went into his side. This is more holy than if we found the actual cross that Jesus was crucified on. This is more holy than Jerusalem. This is more holy than Palestine or Israel. This is more holy than the Sea of Galilee. You want to visit holy. You want to be with holy. You don't have to get on a jet plane and go land at Tel Aviv and go find Jacob's well or where Jesus was on Mount Olives. You don't have to do that. You want to find holy? You want to have holy? Just pick up the Bible. That's holy. That's what it is. All right? So your master is here. This is where your master is. Your master is not even me. It's not me. It's not our statement of beliefs. It's not the Synod statement of beliefs. It's not even the Lutheran confessions. That's not your master. This is your master. And I think that has totally been lost. Has been totally lost, even in most church denominations today. It's been totally lost. And they have replaced it with theology. They replaced it with, well, I believe this, or we believe this. Huh?
ELCA?
Yeah, well, that's a good example, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We think what we think. And that's holy to us. But whatever the Bible says, that's not holy. Because, oh, that's an old book. That's an old book. It was written by men. And maybe God inspired certain sections of it, but we'll decide. We'll decide. We'll be the judge over the Scriptures, and we will decide what parts are inspired and what parts are not.
Do they not realize they're doing exactly the same thing? They're casting out. They're saying it's okay for us to cast out,
Right,
but you can't believe what these people
Right.
are saying. But you believe me.
right. Well, it's a man-made religion. That's what the Methodists just did last week. That's exactly what they did. That's what the Presbyterians did years ago. That's what the Anglicans did years ago. The Episcopalians did years ago. The United Church of Christ, the Reformed Church in America, you name it. That's what the Baptist Church is arguing about right now. Right now, that's what the Baptist Church is arguing about. Who are you going to believe? And so there's a lot of people in the Baptist Church who are saying, don't pay attention to those words from St. Paul about women pastors. That is, no women pastors. Okay? Don't pay attention to that. Just ignore that. That was just Paul's opinion. That was just Paul, spewing out his misogyny, his woman hatred. Because he never got married. He hated women. He was probably gay. Okay? And it was self-hatred when he was talking about homosexuals and everything. And so we just ignore that. And I loved what one guy said. He said, didn't you guys ask for he was talking to the liberals, and he said, didn't you ask for a study committee the last time we met together? Yeah, you did. And if you look, you go all the way back to the Presbyterians in the 1920s, and then, like I say, look at just go Google the thing. Just go, even though Google is evil or whatever, but go and do some research. Look at those churches, the United Presbyterians, okay, the Reformed Church in America, the Episcopalians, the Anglicans. Look at every single one, and you will see the exact same thing. The first thing they do is they say, somebody stands up in a tiny minority, and they stand up, can we just talk about this? Can we just talk about this? Can we just have a discussion at least? Can you just hear us out? Okay, that's the first thing they do. And so usually somebody says, okay, yeah, let's have a discussion. And so the discussion goes on for a while. And then another one of the liberals will say, I move we appoint a study committee. Let's appoint a study committee to look at this. And let's make sure that on the study committee we have people from both sides and also some uncommitted people. Okay? And we'll give the study committee 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, 1 year, whatever. We'll give a study committee a certain amount of time and report back to the next convention. So the study committee reports back to the next convention. And either the committee is split and says, well, we didn't come to a consensus, or the study committee comes back and says, yeah, we think maybe we should discuss this some more. And so then, after a while, and it's discussed more, and a couple more committees, and a couple of more conventions go by, and then what happened with the Methodists and what happened with the rest of them, this is approved. Because you talk about it and 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 talk about it for so long. And these people are so sincere. And they're so nice. And they're so loving and kind. And oh my goodness, we don't want to disparage the gifts of gays or lesbians or women. We don't want to do that. And so the whole church body caves. Okay, whatever. That's what happens every single time. And so this guy said he was addressing the Baptist convention, and he said, you know what, guys? We've already talked about this. We've talked about this for 40 years. I'm done talking about it. And so that's when he made the motion. He said, I move that any church that has women pastors be thrown out of the Southern Baptist Convention.
That, I just saw that on, yeah, because I said that.
You sent it to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I move that any church that has women pastors, thrown out of the convention, thrown out of the church body. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time somebody made the right choice, right? Now, who knows whether that will actually be approved? I don't know. I haven't heard. I haven't heard whether it has or not. I don't know if the convention was over yesterday or not. I think it was, but I'm not sure. I haven't heard what happened. And then, as I told Bruce, when he sent that to me, I told him, I said, I can guarantee you. See, in the Baptist church, you have to understand, in the Baptist church, every church is independent. Every church, every congregation is independent. They may belong to the Southern Baptist Convention, but it's kind of a tenuous membership. It's kind of we're kind of members. And the Southern Baptist Convention, the leadership has never, that I can remember ever in the history of the church, ever sent down a decree saying every church has got to do this. And most of the congregations, if they even got a decree like that, would go, because that's not a Baptist way of doing things. Baptist way of doing things is you all do whatever you want. As long as we can agree on the Trinity and, a few other odds and ends, that's it. And we don't tell you what to do. You worship any way you want to, you do whatever you want to. So if they do that, it'll be a first. It'll be unique. It'll be unique in the history of the Southern Baptist Convention. And all my family members were all in the Southern Baptist Convention. Every single one. My father, my mother, everybody. Okay, my grandmother, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews. All right. So I know that church body pretty well, and they don't send edicts down. And if they ever do, boy, you would get such a row. People would say, "Wait a minute, you can't tell us what to do." And there's a lot of big Southern Baptist churches around the country that have women pastors. And I'm talking congregations of thousands, 5,000, 6,000, 10,000. Yeah. And some very famous, well-known pastors. So if that happens, and if they do throw them out or tell them that they have to leave, whatever, boy, you're going to see a church war that will make the Missouri Synod church war look like a twiddly stick contest.
Well, the article sounded like it's a done deal because it's been decided.
Well, now they have to enforce it, though. See?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Good
it
luck.
said that they can no longer call themselves Baptists.
Oh, they will. They'll just call them something else. They'll just say, "We're not Southern Baptists. We're
Right.
XYZ Baptists or whatever." Oh, we didn't get very far. Let me finish a couple thoughts here. Well, no. Then we got to go on to verse 25. Let's not do that. Let's just finish the comments under V. Literally, mammon was originally a person to whom one entrusted one's funds. So everybody, if you had a good deal of property, or you had a good deal of money or whatever, or possessions, you had a mammon. That was what it was actually. It was actually an office. It was a person. You had a mammon. That was his name. Okay. The meaning changed to become a trust in the power that money provides. One of the pagan gods of the Old Testament times was also called Mammon. That was his name. Again, that's an actual idol, actual false god. A slave had no rights and couldn't own anything. He had no time of his own, for he was always on call for his master. A master could work him 20 hours a day or have the slave beaten if he chose to. We cannot be a slave to God and be devoted to material things. There isn't enough time to serve both. So again, if you start out, if you're thinking of your day, if you're thinking of your life, well, I'm doing this for God, all right? No matter what it is, and it can be something very mundane. It can be very simple. Whether it's your job, whether it's being a father or mother, whether it's being a brother or sister, whatever it is. You can think of it, well, I'm doing this for God. That is the correct attitude. That's the correct beginning way to think of it. And when you're doing that, then you're following what Jesus says here in verse 24. All right, we'll pick it up next time at verse 25. And we're no way we're going to finish all of chapter 7, but, well, we'll give it a shot.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
I read ahead to verse 8,
So,
22. But Jesus said to him, follow me and allow the dead to bury their own dead.
oh, yeah.
He goes, allow the dead to bury their own dead. When he says allow the dead, he means the unbelievers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Yep.
God, I'm learning so much.
Yep. Well, good. That's the idea. That's the idea. All right, we will be able to meet, I'm sure, next Saturday. Not next Saturday, but Saturday after next. But let me just advise you that the Quasts are discussing whether to have Dale's funeral on Friday or Saturday.
When did he pass?
Wednesday?
I did not know that.
Was it? You don't get the email? No? Yeah, it was Wednesday or Thursday? Was it Wednesday? Was it? I thought it was Wednesday, yeah. Anyway, so if the funeral's on Saturday, most likely it will be like 10 o'clock, usually something. Usually that's what I advise people. I'm also assuming that he'll have military honors. Okay, I don't know that for sure. Now, sometimes that's done here. Sometimes it's done at the cemetery. Depends on what they decide. Okay. So I want to have class on that Saturday. If they decide to have the funeral on Saturday, I want to still have class that Saturday. However, just be advised that class may be like 2 o'clock rather than 1 o'clock, okay? Depending on whether they want to go to the cemetery and all that kind of stuff, okay?
What day is that, the 25th?
22nd. Yes, they're discussing with family right now whether the rest of the family that's coming down for the funeral wants to have it on Friday or Saturday. And if it's on Friday, of course, then we can have it in the afternoon or whatever. But if it's on Saturday, it usually needs to be in the morning, and that's usually when the people are prepared there at the fort to do military honors, fold the flag, and all that kind of stuff. But some families decide not to do that. They just have it done at the church, and then they will, So there's still things still up in the air. But again, I just want you to know that as far as I'm concerned, I want to have, if at all possible, I want to have Bible class, Bible basics that Saturday. If we have to change the time, though, watch for that, okay? That's all I'm saying, all right? All right, have a good rest of the day.
Pastor, one.
Thank you.